Welcome back to Creepy Confidential. I'm your host, Noelle, your resident weirdo Wisconsinite. I open case files on my favorite cryptids, cults, conspiracies, and other worldly creepy. Bringing you new cases, live broadcasts, local lore, and in Season 2, we bring you the Cult of the Month. So get ready, creeps. It's Season 2 of Creepy Confidential. Due to the information in the Cult of the Month episodes, we will start with a disclaimer. Warning, this episode is intended for mature audiences. It contains graphic descriptions of crime scenes, abuse, profanity, and cult behavior. Listener discretion is advised. April 28th, 2021. In a small southwestern town of Crestone, Colorado. Michael Lamboy walks into the Salida Police Department and tells the authorities that in his home they will find an enshrined, mummified corpse. Police arrive at the residence. The scent of sage hangs in the air as they proceed inside. A twinkling, multicolored makeshift shrine can be seen from down the hallway. They come to a room decorated similar to a child's bedroom. Rainbows, hearts, and stars adorn the walls, and a few stuffed bunny toys are perched on the mantel, standing vigil. A sleeping bag rests on the bed, draped in small, multicolored Christmas lights. A female face is only slightly exposed, and the skin is slightly blue in color. Above her head are small, flower-shaped lights that adorn and illuminate her crown. The eyes appear to be missing at first glance. Upon further investigation, the eyes are present and dehydrated due to the ongoing decomposition process. The empty sockets appear to have been dusted with glitter makeup. Her dehydrated lips have receded, exposing her teeth. The state of the corpse suggests that she has been deceased for several weeks and laid in state in the middle of this makeshift shrine. A shrine built to honor their leader. A leader they knew as Mother God. And now their Mother God had ascended. A divine 19 billion-year-old being who to them had birthed all of creation. Proclaiming to have been reincarnated 534 times, including as Jesus Christ. This being would lead 144,000 people into a mythical fifth dimension. Turns out this divine being was known as Amy Carlson. She was 45 years old, suffering from anorexia, drank heavily, and had consumed large amounts of colloidal silver in an attempt to treat herself for illness. Love Has Won had lost their leader. What's up, creeps? Welcome to February, and welcome to the Cult of the Month. This month, we're going to be talking about a cult called Love Has Won. Now, when choosing a Cult of the Month that I decide I'm going to spend a little energy on, I don't just choose any cult. No run-of-the-mill cult that everybody knows. It's got to have something creepy about it. Something with that little extra sparkle. I think the cult leader being found mummified in a sleeping bag, blue skin, painted with glitter, and enshrined with sparkly Christmas lights, I'd say that checks all the boxes on that one. This cult is a fairly young cult, as it started in the 21st century, and it's actually still active, but under a new name. But let's discuss what caught everyone's attention. A mummified cult leader found in a sleeping bag, wrapped in Christmas lights. So grab a cup of coffee, folks, and we're going to talk about this. This one, there's a lot of craziness going on. Now, Amy Carlson started out as a straight-A student. She sang in the church choir and had a fairly typical childhood in today's standards. Her parents separated when she was a youngster. Her mother and father remarried, and a custody battle ensued. I know I say typical with all of those things because in today's world, divorce is very common, and oftentimes custody battles ensue, and the little one tends to be kind of cannon fodder. Now, this can cause a child some level of trauma. If anybody who else has separated parents, divorced parents, that it can get to kids. I think that if they were able to work through their feelings with the help of their parents and counseling, it can aid in the struggle of that transition. However, it seems they're kind of used as a pawn sometimes, or the child never tells anybody how they feel, and their world begins to shift with kind of no fault to the parents. It just kind of happens. In my opinion, between her living between Kansas and Oklahoma, I think she never stood a chance. But again, just my opinion. I feel this was the root of her trying to, first of all, be the center of attention and the world revolving around her. Also, her search for love and adoration. I'm no psychologist by any means, but that's what I'm seeing from the outsider, kind of in the window looking in. Perhaps through guilt or passive neglect, she kind of floundered when it came to her emotions. And I think something like that can really be a spark of what causes these really deep-rooted issues. In her teen years, she was kind of pretty standard for what I could find. However, her mom kind of notes that she always clung to that child aesthetic of things. She always wanted to decorate her room in unicorns, although I don't know, even as an adult, I think I'd be okay with decorating a room in unicorns, but besides the point. Now, she eventually relocated to Houston. She did well, kind of in that suburban middle-class lifestyle, not one for athletics. She found kind of her stride in the church choir and in plays, theatrical plays. Some even looked up to her, calling her, a smart, beautiful, and had an amazing voice. Now, according to Love Has One kind of lore, Amy's latent divine powers had already begun manifesting at this time. One of Love Has One's longest-standing members recounts being told that by 4 or 5 years old, Amy was talking to angels, and her parents had taken her from church to church, seeking insight and advice from pastors on what to do about this. However, it was one particular instance she was said to have had an outburst in the middle of a sermon. The pastor apparently said something she thought was a lie, and she yelled, "You're lying!" Yeah, because she was Jesus, remember. She had to be removed from church. By her early 20s, Amy had 3 children and had been married and divorced. Her mother said in an interview with Dr. Phil, of course, that she wasn't particularly maternal. Quote, "She just didn't have that warmth. She had no problem leaving her children with other people." End quote. By the mid-2000s, Amy had begun to develop a preoccupation for this new age spiritual thought. She became a regular on the website lightworkers.org on the forums, where she began chatting with a man who went by Amaranth White Eagle, who would later become the first, quote, father god to her mother god. At this point, she was inching closer and closer to abandoning her former life. She explained that each of these partners was a vessel for the same father god energy. And apparently, this energy was too large to be contained in one human being. There could be many father gods, but there could only be this one mother god. Well, that sucks to be her father god then, because it turns out you can just be disposed of, and a new father god can be put in right where he was. It was this Amaranth who told Amy that she was God. And it was the beginning of a story that would just long continue after White Eagle was way out of the picture. Soon after this connection, she quit her job as a manager at McDonald's, left her husband and 3 kids behind, and thus severing that connection with everything she'd ever known. She headed west towards Colorado to fulfill her mission to awaken every human on the planet. Lord knows this woman was loud enough, I'll tell you that much. So let's break down her self-created resume, shall we, of what makes her Mother God. She informed everyone she was Jesus Christ, Cleopatra, and Marilyn Monroe, among other various historical features. She was the queen of the mythical ancient city of Lemuria before its violent fall, during which time she claims that Donald Trump was her father. Her goal was to lead 144,000 believers into the awakened 5D plane of existence, leaving behind the shackles of the broken, quote, 3D world, which is what she called basically our everyday muggle existence. Those left behind would be destroyed, and their energies will be recycled into the sun. Now let's think about this. Recycled. Does that sound familiar to you? I believe the last cult of the month also used the term recycled, that this earth would be recycled. Applewhite, excuse me. Love Has Won has always been clear that ascending into the 5D world involves taking their physical bodies, not dying. The concept of this ascension in kind of the Love Has Won theology states there is no life and afterlife in a conventional sense. These are all parts of the same reality. Amy herself was expected to ascend into a starship, or perhaps through a portal in the ocean. There we go again. Ascend into starship, eh? Sounds familiar. Applewhite. Oh, excuse me. Now, these two groups are not affiliated. It's just an odd coincidence. It just seems that this special breed believes that, this aliens cross-section type of thing is going on. She claimed to have a close relationship with the spirit of Robin Williams, who would provide her kind of with a spiritual counsel, a little voice, if you will. You can watch her in these videos, and she randomly looks to the left or looks to the right and is talking to Robin. She just says Robin, and that's who she claims she was talking to. Now, let's continue with the resume. Mother God, quote unquote, is over 19 billion years old. That's older than Earth, if science serves me correct, and has lived over 500 lives, 534 to be exact. She is in constant conflict with the cabal. Now, other conspiracy theorists / cultist follower type things, you might recognize that. The cabal is this kind of shadowy global organization, end all, rule all, to basically kind of keep humanity under their thumb type of thing. And in her most recent life, the one that just ended prior to, her actually ending, the cabal tried to assassinate her nearly 600 times. But according to what I read, she foiled each attempt. Now that's a shifty Manx, isn't she? You evaded assassination 600 times. Skeptical creep is extremely skeptical. So let's talk about the cabal a little more, because it also ties in with this conspiracy theory part of what they believed, part of their, I'll call it a religion, but part of what their theology, right? So the cabal is a group of minions of reptiles, and the Anunnaki, I'm probably saying that wrong, ancient extraterrestrials, basically, and or Sumerian deities. It kind of depends on who is sitting around the table. They are a global elite tied to the, here it comes, Illuminati. They all pull the world's kind of sinister strings. They orchestrate everything, the dark sham, everything that is modern life, in which everything from wars to mass shootings, pandemics, you name it. They're the ones who are pulling the strings on that, engineering to keep humanity kind of in the state of fear so that they can control everything. Side note, I do smell an episode of the Confederacy of Conspiracies coming, because that's a big one, though. That would not be a quick 15-minute topic. So let's talk about location. Why Colorado? Now, believe it or not, there's an actual reason what's going on in Crestone. Now, Crestone, Colorado, it's beautiful. If you look at the pictures, it's beautiful land, these big open areas, and the one, it's kind of that one area to take your cult for the beginning of a group. At least I think so. However, there is more to it than just these beautiful landscapes. Crestone, in particular, has Hindu ashrams to the Roman Catholic monastery, all in the shadow of the Sangre de Cristo, the Blood of Christ mountain range. Now, this mountain range is named this because has these like deep red colors at sunset, and then these jagged peaks, which kind of circle around the valley like a crown of thorns. And the Native Americans call the San Luis Native Americans called this the Bloodless Valley. It was a place for sacred pilgrimages where violence stopped, but there's more. So this part's interesting. At least I thought so. In recent years, New Age spiritualists, healers, and UFO enthusiasts, there it is again, have found the area, including those who think that this county's concentrated spiritual energy may be making this some sort of primo location for interdimensional portals, and a place where a higher level of communion with the divine is possible. So kind of, I guess, a short version of that is this place is full of strange mojo and old mojo when it comes to native kind of beliefs and things of that nature, mixed with some new crazies. I'm sorry, but I kind of are. These people are nuts. Now, an ex-Love Is One member called it a cult. This group kind of started as an internet machine. They were pumping out YouTube videos, live streams, social media posts, blog articles, and all the while, they were also trying to sell their new age products. I'll call them snake oil products. Basically, buy this crystal water and it will cure you of cancer. Buy, things of that nature. While some people do believe in the energy of certain crystals, earth, this was a little different. This was because they were trying to make money. These guys didn't have any sort of mojo when it came to that sort of thing. Now, they have kind of amassed over 2,700 videos, and actually they are still releasing content because they're still around trying to spread the word of Mother God and the ascension. And I mean, man, these hippies are not just the fun-loving, peace kind. They are absolutely not that. These guys are brash, erratic, they're potty-mouthed. They will openly insult each other and spectators and live on air. And then the next breath, they're like, oh, we gotta love each other, peace, man. And they're just kind of follow this whole weird approach to spreading love. That's for sure. They don't care if they offend. And in fact, you can listen to them. They almost seem like they kind of enjoy it. It's part of it. Like, they're very bratty. I'll use that word. They just remind me of kids that mom's not around. But even when mom was around, mom acted that way, I guess. I don't know. And they do call her mom. Now, over time, this cult had a few dozen members that lived there kind of at the compound. And then another kind of estimated 100, 200, they're kind of remote followers that stayed connected via the web. But to understand any of this, you had to kind of follow Amy's rapid decline in health, and then kind of the ultimate death. It's important to understand that in the Love Has One belief system, all the world's external suffering and pain, according to them, had to be played out physically upon her body. Now, because they believed that Amy's body acted kind of as a filtration system, cleansing the world of negative energies and bad vibes, kind of caused her to suffer, to suffer a lot physically. And they explained that when she would lash out and do these just crazy rants where she's cussing at everybody, she's screaming, calling people whores, you name it, that this was basically, she was at her cup was full and it was brimming over because of all the pain and all the suffering. At various times, the Love as One followers even claimed that if Amy died, everyone on the planet would die. Her followers were meant to shield her from damage through her faith and kind of what they called the right action. Now, Amy Carlson was not supposed to physically die. That was always a possibility, but it was nobody's plan. Now, January 14th, 2009 marks the very first Love Has Won YouTube video. This white eagle dude is speaking in a calm, kind of hippie fashion, in a loving tone, and he's over the soundtrack of Closer to Heaven by the Alan Parsons Project. Now, White Eagle told viewers that they were loved unconditionally and to look inside themselves for their own divine likeness, and that if they did so, their joy would overflow. Now, his initial uploads were often simply short clips of clouds floating above the Sangre de Cristo's peaks, which both he and Amy claimed were cloaked starships. Now, most of Amy's initial videos were published as, quote, the Galactic Free Press, and were either audio only or featured her speaking directly into the camera in a kind of a news anchor sort of style, updating viewers on the interstellar spiritual plotline that she claimed was playing out all around them. Now, at which point, many of Amy's professed cosmic worldviews, of course, was unoriginal. If you listen, it's a mixture of New Age writing that she picked up through different newsletters, forums, chat rooms. She was just kind of regurgitating these pieces that were already pre-written and reporting on celestial events kind of as she understood them. And then, again, just kind of regurgitating information that was from different New Age groups. So, for example, there's a Ashtar Command, and I'm probably, again, not saying that name correctly, features prominently in these kind of early addresses that she does. The idea of Ashtar was essentially an extraterrestrial law enforcement organization that would save humanity. But as she kind of sat more into the role of a spiritual leader, this is when her teachings became her own and became skewed and a little bit more out there. Now, her relationship with White Eagle did not last that long, and this marked kind of that movement where she transitioned from playing a supporting role, because she was always at his side, and you could tell he was kind of the leader of whatever conversation they were having in that video that day, and then now she really starts to assert herself as a deity. Details of the split are pretty murky at best, but when she left, she went with a man named Miguel Lamboy, who soon took over the finances for everything, and they were living in a lovely forest home beside a river, and then he was typically behind the camera. Now, they also called him Archangel Michael Silver. So when they refer to him, I say they, when Love Has Won refers to them later, they refer to him as Michael. Now, many components of Life Has Won beliefs began falling into place now. She spoke frequently of the need to tune into that higher vibrational frequencies, and that she was placed upon Earth to help to guide humanity into a higher state of being. Now, I don't see anything about higher state or being of what she does, because she's so violent. She's so loud. Like, I just don't understand. Now, but when he joined Amy in 2014, Lamboy was 35 and became the first true member that's known as Love as One. Now, Miguel and other kind of current people that were following in that vein and entered into Amy's life, he claims now he was suffering from end-stage lung cancer and had already had one lung removed. Now, they, as a collective group, say that Mother God healed him, and in doing so, kind of molded him into a true believer, which I don't know how they would do that, but she did, apparently. And then he positioned himself as a valuable kind of logistical asset to this whole situation. He was a very strong thinker, He had a talent for like quiet leadership and the ability to handle finances. So he was the one who kind of helped them get everything really in play when it comes to who they are with their name. Now, those who I've been following along, and as soon as I said this guy's name, you kind of perked up a little bit. So remember, this is the same dude who went to the police station claiming that there was a deceased, Amy, in his house, and he didn't know, that she didn't know she was there, or that she was dead, but she's mummified in a sleeping bag. So this is the same guy. So that kind of lets you believe, like, were you trying to not get in trouble? Did you truly not know? Did you didn't think she was dead? Although when you see pictures of her, she's clearly dead. That this is the same guy. Now, Love Has Won, it later became a 501c3, which blows my mind that you are a nonprofit organization. I find that hilarious, and I'm sure that they were getting around things. Now, a nonprofit charitable organization, and it was Miguel who made that happen. Now likewise, it's his name that appears on the LLC formation documents when they kind of first launched this business. Now, I was buzzing around the nets and listening to podcasts from one of the members, kind of current members, and it appears that when Amy passed, now this is from their mouth, so I can't, really put the concrete on it, passed that everything went down, that Michael, she called him, liquidated everything and bailed. Like, took all their money and bailed. And at least that's in accordance, with what they said. So I find that it's a little interesting. But you are part of a cult, so it doesn't totally blow my mind on that. Now, from 2014, 2018, others would join the group, many via the web, of course, and then some in person. And in the early days, Amy was charming still. She was vital. She was charismatic and sunny and kind of hippie still. But you can listen. She's still very erratic in her kind of mood shifting on a dime type of situation. But she appeared fairly healthy, still really thin. If you see her in old pictures, she looks like a kind of a normal Kansas person. Guess where she was from. She's not tiny, but she's not big. She's just normal. Big blonde hair. And then she's really thin even from the kind of first videos that you see of her with White Eagle. She's really, really thin. But at this point, she still appeared to be healthy, but behind the scenes, of course, as usual, the storms are brewing. Now, Amy drank, and by several accounts was not a nice drunk, a mean drunk. And there's videos of her being very mean and loud and frustrated with those kind of who she saw as working against her, that paranoid behavior. And then soon that version of Amy is what took the driver's seat. That crazy, self-destructive, just super domineering, that took the center stage in these live streams. And this is what you saw. Now, the videos that really, really made me angry, there's two, and they showed up on this Dr. Phil special. And they also showed up in another documentary, I think, that Vice did. So specifically to these videos, one is of she's holding a child. The child is not hers, I turned out. So that means somebody else in the room. There's a bunch of other people in the room, and it's just crying. You can tell this kid is upset. He's scared. He's, and she's holding him, telling him to, to basically to give in, like stop, and they like time out. They put him in a closet, in a dark, small closet, and close the door. And then they say it's for 2 minutes. And then the next time they pull him out, nope, you're not ready, take him away. And they take this kid away. And then she claims in the Dr. Phil special that these kids had no structure, they had no discipline. You don't put kids in a dark closet. You're going to scare the bejesus out of them. You could put them in a room somewhere where they maybe need their books or something, and just let them chill out, but not a closet. So this happened several times. And that one, I may not have two-legged children of my own. I have a bunch of four-legged children, but that broke my heart. But she also did it to a little four-legged friend. And in another video, she's holding this poor cat, and she's shaking the bejesus out of it, holding it by its scruff, which an adult cat you should not be doing. And it made me so angry that nobody stopped it. So if anybody's watching the videos and they're like, oh, well, maybe she's just loud. No, she was a bad person. And one of the people in those videos, kind of another crucial turning point, is Jason Castillo. And this is the new father god to her mother god. So remember, you can have multiple father gods, but you can only have one mother god. Convenient. Now, Castillo first appears in a video in 2018, like in fall of 2018. And then now after that, the group kind of settles into this structure and culture that remain consistent until Amy's death. Now, this dude was kind of ruggedly not a bad looking guy, long dark hair, he was pulled back in a ponytail. This is in the beginning, and he was a little more quiet. You'd see him sitting next to Amy, maybe working on a laptop or something. He was the one who was lifting her around when she couldn't move because she did become paralyzed. And then for those watching that, the live streams, I mean, his appearance was very sudden. It wasn't like, you court and then you do the whole move into each other kind of thing. It was very quickly. And then this dude, Castillo, grew up in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Again, we don't claim him. He's another bad apple. And his cheese has long slid off of his cracker, if you know what I mean. Now, it's deep within the territory, Rhinelander, kind of up there in the northern area. And it's renowned, of course, for those vast forests and lakes. And it's really pretty, a really pretty part of Wisconsin. And he's up there, kind of, I'll say, enraptured by the divine. He sees all these beautiful things, fascinated by the idea of a living God. I don't know where he came up with this, but he's fascinated by it. Rolling Stone did a interview with this guy, and one of the parts of that, living in Wisconsin, he says, quote, "I remember being 5 years old, maybe 6, sitting on the weekends in my grandparents' house. I'd sit on the stairs and look at this picture of Jesus and this auburn glow. I would sit there and just stare at Jesus, who was myself." End quote. Yourself as Jesus. You don't say. Man, these people. Now, around 1999, when he was in his mid-20s, Castillo relocated from Wisconsin to Sacramento. And then there he met this woman who he'd been with for 20 years. He raised 4 children, and he kind of did this, again, that 3D family, as they call it. And by early 2013, he had developed an interest in Amy and Love Has Won, kind of again through the online presence. And he began talking to his family about ascending, about how Jesus was a woman, and other concept that in this whole Love Has Won ideology. A few years later, he was invested enough to join Amy in person and again abandoned everything, leaving his kids behind. And he said, another crazy quote, "My 3D children are the greatest children on the planet. They're well aware that the needs of a few are unimportant compared to the whole planet. There are 8.5 billion children." End quote. Well, that's got to be a real stick in the side to feel that way, to be his kids. So I hope that they're living really fantastic, fulfilling lives, because this guy is nutso-butso. After Castillo moved to Crestone, he was absolutely just glued to Amy's side. Her drinking was taking a super heavy toll, and her body started to grow weaker. And you would see him carrying her from place to place because she no longer could go from place to place. At the same time in these videos, he appears, again, to not be hostile. He's just kind of, hanging out. And that's saying a lot, considering this place was full of just cussing and abuse. I think he was just kind of buying his time to see what's happening. It's kind of just, if he's quiet, he can just stay next to her and be the number 2 of this whole situation. But he was prone to threats of violence, aggressive outbursts, and generally kind of unpredictable type of this domineering behavior. And when I watch this dude, he reminds me of Manson. It's in his eyes. He even kind of has the same kind of wiry, gray, black hair with the dark eyes. This dude's obviously better looking because Manson looks like a little troll and he doesn't have a swastika on his forehead. But I think that's what scooped in Amy, because, clearly she's just a regular human, but she's nuts. And you can tell, like, he's got the crazy mojo. The real standout content for me was the kind of day-by-day updates on her ongoing battle against the cabal. Because, she has to daily go up against these lizard people. And on August 1st, 2018, viewers were informed that dark witches had attacked Amy. 3 weeks later, the audience was told that another assassination attempt had taken place, during which a, quote, sword sliced one of her hearts, end quote. She says in the video, the etheric have been doing surgery on it for many hours, and that she's throwing up, she has diarrhea, and she was shaking. Who knows? It could have just been a bad bender, and that's what they were calling it as. Now, Love as One's overall narrative was becoming more paranoid, and Amy was described as being under constant assault from dark forces. Stories of assassination attempts continued in videos up into 2019, including supposed incidences where Amy was struck with etheric darts and another in her spleen and pancreas, and they were infiltrated by the cabal. Like, these guys. The content of many of their live streams, during this time period mirrored the book of Revelation. They would talk about the breaking through the 7 seals, after which, she'd move on to transitioning to 7 trumpets, then 7 bowls. Prediction, they're just mixing up all kinds of religions. It's kind of crazy to me. The predictions were made, at that time when they were doing these videos. Amy's progress, was updated. She virtually never really appeared on camera these days, and by the middle of 2018, something that came through these updates was that she had processed 99.3 of world's negative energy. The rate of growth slowed exponentially as she approached 100%. So she essentially was trying to filter out the world's negativity, which I can tell you right now, she ain't filtering very well, because this world is full of it. Her pain was described as reaching 50 out of 10. They were really up in the ante and trying to post this content about the end of days and how we were all going to suffer, and calling non-believers bugs on a windshield that's going to get smashed. They're just not very, they're kind of like a sledgehammer when it comes to presenting their information. But one of the more shocking instances of threatening the public outright came from a video addressing, by a member named Adam Holler in 2019. Excuse the language, I am going to quote something. Quote, "Anyone who tries to fuck with us will kill you," he said. Quote, "We will fucking kill you because there's no time left, and we've seen our mom suffer so much. I know that so many people watch these live streams. I know that there's rich people out there with millions of dollars who watch these, and how dare you? We're coming for you." End quote. Woo. Yeah. So in general, these threatening messages, they were coming out regularly and expressed also really racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic views. I mean, these guys were really doubling down on everything. And it could have just been for shock value, because they wanted to be famous, they wanted to be in the news. At this point, they were probably starting to pop up every now and then. So it's just crazy to me. And they run the gamut from these bigoted racial comments to an in-depth alternate history, kind of surrounding Hitler and the Holocaust. I mean, everything. Now, Amy's drinking really was starting to get bad. And they talked about the ex-member. I found an interview where she had like a highball glass and she would fill that thing multiple times throughout the night. It's like, that's insane. Like, think about it. You have like 1 or 2 drinks that maybe have 2 ounces each. And maybe at 4 ounces, you start to feel pretty bubbly. I can't imagine drinking an entire, multiple of these highball glasses. I mean, you'd be so sick. It's crazy to me. And then, as if that's not bad enough, in videos and other communications, of course, still on YouTube, they're showing members that are subjected to hours-long sessions in which they're being just verbally beaten down, criticized by other members, just in an attempt to weed out the negative energies kind of infesting the group. Now, this game, I'll call it, this session was called to them, quote, "finding the whore." And these sessions could involve multiple members calling each other out about behaviors deemed inappropriate, or they might focus on a single member, often just reducing them down to tears. Now, in cult terminology, this is kind of referred to what they call a hot seat technique. Now, this is wherein kind of the members you just bombard them with accusations and criticisms and just kind of beating down and eroding their confidence and sense of self. And what this does, then, it lowers that self-esteem, and this is the course that helps make that message that's shaky at best seem a little bit more digestible to them, a little more reasonable, when clearly it's not. In one session, John Robertson was admonished for something that he was told he committed in the year 1431. 1431. So let me read that back and forth. And this is from a magazine that I found. Patterson. What about the moment when Mom specifically commanded you not to jump into that fire and you jumped into that fire? Robertson. Yeah, in that lifetime, I disobeyed a direct command. Mom, as Joan of Arc, told all of her soldiers at that time that they were going to burn her and not to come after her in any way to try to save her. In that lifetime, I defied that command and jumped in the fire anyways to save her. Patterson. Only killing yourself in the process. You didn't save her. So that was the interaction between the two. Now, critics of the group still say that that authoritarian behavior didn't stop. The members' money became Mother God's money. Members were encouraged to contribute funds towards the group and to pay for counseling and that etheric surgery sessions. They were encouraged to cut ties with any supportive, unsupportive family members. Again, that's what cults do. And ex-members claim that Amy and Castillo would control their food intake and sleep schedule, and then that most members were expected to live celibate lives free of romantic relationships. New members of their community, experience what psychologists and experts have called another term, love bombing. They would shower these newcomers with hyper-friendly, hyper-empathetic words and attention, kind of in order to win them over and just kind of overwhelming the potential recruit with that feeling of being just deeply cared for and, oh, how I'm so understood, and oh my gosh, I'm so welcome here. And then kind of turn around and then boom, hit them with all the craziness. So then you were kind of invested in what you had started. Now, apart from live streaming for hours a day, members continued to write blog articles. They performed these online consultations. They worked on their business where they sold these products, lotions, oils, things like that, under Gaia's Whole Healing Essentials. And they sold things like essential oils, crystal pyramids, and colloidal silver. Now, this one's the important one, because Amy took this herself obsessively. And you can tell because all of a sudden within the videos, she starts looking blue. Not like clown blue, but lack of oxygen kind of blue. Now, this colloidal silver is a substance, so it's made by suspending the silver kind of particles in a liquid, and it's often marketed as kind of a cure-all dietary supplement kind of thing. But if you take too much of this stuff, it can make you sick. It can do more than make you sick. One of the biggest money makers, though, for this group was these etheric surgeries. They were done remotely. They were said to cure any and all diseases. And I read in one piece of information, actually Amy talked about it, that one surgery was $400, even though they said that these sessions were only, a small amount per piece. Like, so these guys were raking in the coals. You get somebody who's desperate and upset, and they have cancer, whatever, and they're just taking money from these people. Now we're starting to kind of roll towards that time period. We're in 2020 now. So in April of 2020, Gaia's Home Healing Essentials, they received a warning letter from the FDA because they put up that colloidal silver was a cure for COVID-19. We all know how sensitive everybody is about that to begin with, somewhat rightfully so. But, people, of course, could have really hurt themselves. So they of course, had to take that off of their product. And then August comes around, and they have grown to like 200 people, that are followers of their group, kind of through online, things of that nature, and they're really starting to attract attention again. So they decide that they're going to set up shop on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Now, 14 members took up residence there, and then Amy and little Mr. Castillo there, of course, in a luxury beachfront apartment. Now, the residents were immediately suspicious because now they have a name. They know who these people are. But I think the moment that she really screwed it up for herself was when she announced that she was Pele. Now, that is their Hawaiian goddess of fire and volcanoes, and they take their culture very seriously. Where I feel stateside, a lot of our cultures are kind of watered down what we are. Not on the island. They take everything very seriously, especially when you say that you are her, this goddess of fire, volcanoes, and the creator of the Hawaiian island. Yeah, you're going to make some people mad. So over 100 people gathered outside of their rental home, and things got ugly, let's just say. The rental car was vandalized. They lit small fires around their rental property, and the mayor got involved, eventually telling, hey, guys, I can't guarantee your safety. And then frustrated, some of the members lashed out in a video to address the local residents. And that just is not a smart idea. And Amy herself addressed them in kind of her blunt manner. Again, excuse my language. She says, quote, "Fuck off." She said, "I'm Pele, bitch, don't push me." You just saying that to the locals? Man, and the language, I just couldn't understand how, I don't know, someone talk like that all the time. I would not hang out with them. So they pivoted, trying instead to relocate to a different island. And then according to the police department, because of course they heard about what was happening on the island they were on, and they told them, and they're like, no, we found some issues with your travel documents. You guys got to go. So they made lodging, and they got out of there. And 14 members, returned to Colorado. So it didn't go well. They weren't there very long, because now it kind of starts to round the edge of when they came back. This was kind of her last months. Even when the pictures and the videos you see of her in Hawaii, she's super skinny, super duper skinny. She's even more blue. And then the last months and weeks of her life just are physically torturous. She spent most of her time in bed, which she had for years, but this Castillo would carry her to the shower, and she would just spend hours there in the water, providing some relief of her pain. Now, a lot of it, I think, is when you're so skinny, you don't have any padding. You can't sit down. You can't lay down. I mean, I can only imagine. Now, in April of 2021, she went to one of the group's rental properties in Mount Shasta, California. Now, the group's landlord there, the Mount Shasta's landlord, said that he had spoken with Amy on the 10th, and that he had told her goodbye, that he felt her condition seemed to be so dire that he had a sense that she would pass soon. It was not good. And then around this time, Amy's family, and other concerned viewers contacted the authorities in Mount Shasta, which just kind of, for a wellness check at this point. And Amy's, her Love Has Won followers there informed that she had relocated to another property. And then, so at that point, it's unclear if she was even alive at that time, and that they maintain that she had moved out of the rental property, but with no answer as to where she would go. So you're telling me that you lost your mother god, like a chapstick. Like, it was in my pocket, oh, now it's not there, I don't know where it went, but I know it's not here. Are you crazy? I don't think so, Mary. No. Now, what's crazy is, apparently Amy had asked for medical intervention at some point, and her followers denied it. They were worried. Again, this is nuts. Worried the cabal might get her. There have been, this is a quote, there have been moments when mom has asked us to take her to a 3D hospital, and we're like, nope, because there's no way, and we know exactly how hijacking works, end quote. And this was a member named Lauren, and she said in a broadcast. Now, it's crazy, but it continues. It says, quote, and you can bet your fucking ass that someone in the hospital, whoever it would be, would get hijacked and go straight for mom. Try to do who knows what. They would try to take her to surgery. They would try to do some crazy shit. So obviously not. So her own members basically killed her, in my opinion. It's unclear when she passed away. No one exactly can find out. According to kind of some leaked private group chats, photos started circulating of Amy in the bed, unconscious, and that she could have already have been dead at that point. But they still don't know if she was in California or if she was in Colorado. The police believe that she passed away in California. Now, at this point, back at the Colorado headquarters, members received regular updates on Amy's condition. And on a live stream on April 16th, one of the members named Bobby told viewers, Mom is not good. She is very, very, very close. And that's pretty much all we know. So pray. She's slowly pulling out of her vessel. And later on that day, Bobby and another co-group member there, Dylan, offered another update. Mom is going to ascend tonight. Woo! The other one says, for shizzle my nizzle. I'm glad that you guys are so happy that she's clearly going through a lot of pain, but I guess it's a good thing she's not around anymore. And it was kind of these kind of comments that prompted Amy's family and other concerned viewers to contact authorities in Mount Shasta, which resulted in a wellness check. Now, according to both her family and her followers, the ambulance was turned away. Now, they insist that Amy had a pulse when the county police showed up to recover her body, despite her body's extreme advanced decomposition. She looked like a mummy. They claim that she occasionally moved her hands during the time in which her followers kind of kept her there enshrined. And then one of them remarks that she's eager to see the results of the autopsy, as she suspects it may detail inexplicable phenomenon that have never been significantly documented. After all, why wouldn't an autopsy of a god, show up something miraculous? So the county authorities still maintain that Amy was dead at the time of the body's recovery, of course, and that the autopsy at that time was forthcoming. Now, in the meantime, those members that were there, the 6 members, were criminally charged with abuse of a corpse and child abuse, because there were, I believe, 2 children present. But what's crazy is that those charges were dropped, just quietly dropped. And the coroner released the cause of the death, saying that it was alcohol abuse, anorexia, and chronic colloidal silver ingestion. But if they turned away, I have so many questions about that. Anyway, so in the meantime, they have kind of the website, social media channels, everything's been rebranded. They're under 5D full disclosure now. They have a kind of new content, new website. So they're trying to kind of get started again. And then for Amy's family and for the friends and family of, many Love Has Wonder members whose lives have been just subsumed by the group, that message is, of course, different. They believe that love does not create systems of control, nor does it thrive in guilt. It does not abuse in the name of calling out bad energy. It does not compel people to leave their families and surrender, their individuality, their identities. And they argue that when someone asks you to take them to the hospital to save their life, if you love them, that you do it. Quote, there's nothing we can do about Amy now, her mother says. But she was a human being. She was my firstborn. I loved her, and she knew I loved her. Nobody deserves to die the way she did. I want people to understand that this is what can happen to you if you get involved with a cult. I want to warn people. about just how dangerous it can be. She was a victim too.